Okay. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. So we're just going to discuss the student's mindset, particularly the students who study sacred knowledge, but it can also be addressed to regular students too, and the virtues of knowledge. So all of the topics here that we're going to cover essentially are based off of a text by Hafid ibn Abdul Barr. He's also known as Hafid al-Maghrib, so the Hafid of the West. He wrote a book, a Jami', where he collects multiple hadith on the excellence and virtue of knowledge. So we're just going to go over some of those hadith and get into depth with them. So to start off, it's really important to really analyze a human being. You know, some people say a human being's like an onion, where if you peel back the layers and you keep on going over and over and over and over again, at the center you find nothing. Absolutely nothing. But in reality, that's not true. See, when you unlayer all these things that made us complicated, you know, the car, the family, the relationships, all these layers that came out around this little baby that popped out somehow how many years ago that made us these complex human beings, you take them back, you peel back the skin, you peel back the internal organs, what do you find at the center of it? Something called a fitrah, right? Or more exactly, there's also the ruh, but there's the fitrah too, right? And the fitrah is the innate compass that points back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's constantly leading us back to this question of why. So many people, they look at life in a very superficial type of way, where they ask a question such as, what? You know, what am I supposed to do in life? You know, what am I supposed to do now at this moment? And once they get past that and they push a little bit deeper, they start to ask, how do I go about doing this, right? But for the people of true depth, the true people who think a little bit deeper and they try to go for understanding, they always ask the question of why. And when somebody begins to ask why, they can find true motivation in what they do. So for us as students, we need to always be asking ourselves, not what, how, but why. Why do we do what we do? Why am I here every single day, sitting down in this classroom, sitting down in school from 9 to 3, or for our 3-hour lecture? Why am I doing what I'm doing? This is really critical, and it's actually a major pillar of our religion. The first hadith in Imam Nawawi's Arba'in that he brings is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. And it's also the first hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. Might have to double check that. But generally, a lot of compilations begin with that hadith. And it's asking the question of why. You know, our actions are according to our intentions. And that understanding, that niyyah, is constantly asking the question of why. Why do we do what we do? Why do we do what we do? Are we doing this for the right reason? Why? So in it, if you're reasoning to do something, that why is good enough, you'll find actual motivation. You won't burn out. If you're doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you believe in Him, that you believe by serving Allah you're fulfilling your purpose, that you're getting ever so closer to eternal bliss, then how are you ever going to lose motivation if you truly believe that, right? So asking why is a very important thing.
The second part.
Huh?
Do I go to the second?
Yeah, go ahead. Find a way to segue in. That's part of the learning experience.
Alright. You're gonna have to edit this out.
I'm not editing anything. It's all raw. So you can
Are
come
you
back to
serious?
this 10 years from now and you'd be like, damn.
Oh man. I don't know how to do it.
Just do it. That's what I did yesterday. I just did it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
But how am I supposed to segue in?
I don't know. We talked about why.
Yeah.
And a lot of the reasons, one of the major things when it comes to knowledge is that it's very easy to forget why. Why we study, why we come, why we learn sacred knowledge. We get so lost in these technicalities about fiqh and even technicalities about spirituality. And we begin to lose ourselves in them, not really understanding why we did it even to begin with. A lot of us begin with true, pure intentions, but they get corrupted over time. We begin to do it to serve other people. Sometimes we do it even to serve ourselves because we're looking for a feeling of fulfillment. that, oh, look, I got up at 5 a.m. in the morning, I feel good because I feel accomplished, but is that why you were doing it? To walk away with a feeling? We don't just do things in this religion because of a feeling. We do it to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we do it. And whether or not we're rewarded with a feeling, it doesn't matter. The feeling itself can become a test for us, right?
That's true.
But we know the feeling is real.
Yeah.
You remember Ustad how he talked about the breezes that come to a believer in the beginning when they first start practicing? Right? They're like fresh breezes that come in, and they're almost intoxicating in a way for many people. And it's very easy for them to remain truthful and faithful to what they do as long as they have those breezes. But when those breezes are taken away, which they are, very much so in the initial stages when many of us begin practicing, we feel those breezes. We feel that type of ecstasy, that type of pushing forward, and we go based off of a feeling. Then it tapers off. And many of us don't realize that if we just pushed a little bit further, then ثَلَاثٌ مَنْ كُنَّ فِيهِ وَجْدَ حَلَالَةَ الْإِيمَانِ, that the sweetness of Iman can be experienced at a certain point. There's a hadith that speak about this, right? It's a reality. But it takes work. It takes work. And that goes back to why. So when we look at knowledge, we have to always be setting our intention straight and asking ourselves why we do this, which is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's important that as you gain knowledge, just as you gain wealth, you purify it.
Yeah. So, like you said, as you gain knowledge, it's important that you purify it, just like how you would purify your wealth through the act of zakat, the act of giving, right? And zakat is an obligation that we have where if you're considered a wealthy person, you have to give 2.5% away, right? And what that does is it purifies your wealth. And then you also have sadaqah, where you give away any amount of money, whatever you want, for charity, essentially. So it's optional, right? And so just like we have zakat and sadaqah for wealth, we should also look at knowledge through the same lens. So knowledge, so zakat for knowledge and sadaqah for knowledge. So what would zakat for knowledge be? It's for zakat for knowledge, to purify your own knowledge, you have to act on it. And yeah, you have to act on it, and then to shoot.
I think yesterday when we spoke about it, we derived a few more points that were actually different from Ustad's.
Yeah.
We said that for zakat, it purifies one's wealth. Knowledge has to be purified because there's a punishment associated with hoarding knowledge. Right? There's the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that speaks about the one who hoards knowledge, and specifically it's speaking about the people of knowledge. So the ulama, there'll be people hit with a whip of fire on the day of Qiyamah, right? And there'll be some of the first people dragged into the hellfire, right? Those people who kept knowledge to themselves and they wouldn't share it with others, right? So in order to purify that knowledge, to remove almost like that curse that is associated with what you've taken on, you have to spread it to other people. You have to. And another way that it purifies your knowledge is that when you teach people, it fills in the gaps. The things that you didn't understand, the things that you don't know, that weren't apparent to you, they become very dhahir, very apparent at that moment. Because people, they'll point out the gray areas in what you know. They'll make it very evident to you, right? And we said that it was like sadaqah, because sadaqah, one of the metaphysical realities of it is that when you give charity, you're not losing wealth. You're actually gaining wealth. And the reality is with knowledge, when you give it, you're cementing your understanding of it, and you're increasing in that knowledge that you have. Right? We all know that. How many things have we studied in school that we completely forgot the next day? I know for me, I have 12 years worth of that. So
Yeah.